It's been almost 3 weeks since Melbourne was put back into lockdown. As of 30th of July, we had highest COVID-19 cases in Victoria, 721 cases. You may have questioned, why have the numbers stubbornly refused to go down, despite Melburnians being confined to their homes for all but non-essential trips? To understand the reason, we first need to compare the difference between our first lockdown and the second lockdown. The first lockdown was imposed nationwide in March and April. But COVID-19 made a comeback. Why has this happened? Coronavirus came back in Australia because we eased the restrictions, there was the lack of adherence to social distancing, and finally, there was a breach in hotel quarantine in Victoria. Such reasons led to a second wave of infections in Melbourne. So in Melbourne, there was a brief lockdown of specific postcodes at the very start, mostly in the West and North Melbourne. And after more than a week, the whole of metropolitan Melbourne and Mitchell Shire were put into a second lockdown. This was happening in July 9th, and it was said that it will be going on for a minimum of 6 weeks. This was to suppress the continued high rates of new cases. Stage 3 restrictions covers 5 million residents in Victoria and requires Victorians to stay at home unless for the four reasons, which is for shopping for food and supplies, traveling for care and caregiving, exercise, and commuting for study or work if they cannot be done from home. A mask is also mandatory when outside the home. A Victorian might be fined $200 if they don't wear a mask, unless they have a valid reason for not doing so.
2 weeks later.
These lockdown measures have now been in place for more than 2 weeks, the upper limit of the coronavirus's incubation period in most cases. So why haven't the case numbers gone down but actually gone up? There are a few reasons. Firstly, the second wave has a much larger proportion of cases that have arisen via community transmission, with currently almost half of all local cases having an unknown contact or still being under investigation. Local cases having an unknown contact or still being under investigation means that it's harder to control because of the source of infection is unknown, which makes the process of testing, tracing, and isolating known contacts of confirmed cases harder. While in the first 2 weeks, we will see a decline or at least stabilization of the numbers of cases in each known cluster, those untraced contacts and asymptomatic individuals may continue to spread the virus and start up new clusters. Secondly, people are still moving between suburbs because they're going to work, they're having face-to-face teaching in schools, and there's no limit on the number of people in supermarkets and shopping centers, which means that there are more likely that there's significant contacts between people despite the lockdown. Thirdly, restriction has been going on for so long, which means that people are likely to have fatigue, they might be tired, and they might struggle to stick to the guidelines due to that. And they might not actually feel the full seriousness of coronavirus. Lastly, there are some more potential factors. According to a scientific journal, Nature, the virus is mutated and the mutated form spreads much faster. This could be a factor in second wave, although this is far from certain. And also, the new evidence suggests that COVID-19 is more severe in colder months than warmer ones, and that dry indoor air may encourage the spread of the disease. This really sounds like Melbourne's winter, doesn't it? It is something we have to remember about the last potential factors I mentioned, like the winter and the mutation. We actually don't know how much of the impact it had in Melbourne, so you have to consider it carefully.